Start streaming, start recording. Time is 11 a.m. November 29th is my last 2 hours of community service stream. And then afterwards, I can take another break and then get back to trying to make some real money. Ah, fuck. There's Melody. She says, beep. Welcome back, Mel. My darling Melly Mel. Okay, got some of my hair caught in my beard. Ugh. Just trying to chill out for an hour and had some leftover KFC. It was delicious. Had KFC last night, but I didn't really feel like eating more because I had already had a helping of turkey earlier that evening, so I just opted for a KFC cookie, which are pretty good. I should have checked if there were any more cookies. So back to storyboarding and maybe more political rants. But I feel better after venting all my frustrations in the first 2 hours. Because when I don't vent, I just get really, really aggravated and depressed. And I hate that feeling. It's like a feeling of hopelessness that I can't shake. But coming on here, drawing and venting helps out a lot. Helps out than any more than any other treatment can do. Because all treatment is just judging your thought processes and how you're in the wrong for thinking the way you do, even if like whatever the government's like putting you through is wrong. They just manipulate it into like, oh, it's like what they're doing is beneficial to you. Can't you see? But no, it's like fucking bullshit. And I was at the main house next door talking to my mom and like letting her know like, yeah, I'm just kind of like ranting on my stream like how whatever's going on with me is just freaking unjust and unfair, and like all the treatment that they're putting me through and all this community service is more of a hindrance to my life and the family too. And she says, yeah, it's all it's all just stupid garbage, all nonsense. And just like friggin' let me alone and let me get back to my life. Just get me off probation already. But it's not that easy because I was given lifetime probation because of that stupid bitch Sandy Schmidt, I think it was. Do. Melody says, and I have not been eaten by the yes, I brought Melody back from the shadow realm because I accidentally banned her because my chat window was acting up and I was like clicking around and I accidentally banned my moderator. Oh, Melody says KFC, you you total bastard. That's bastard and bitch put together. But yeah, oh KFC, and I got my own hot sauce. It's like I bought this hot sauce for the family, but since I'm the only one using it, I brought it over to my cabin because I love me some hot sauce. Louisiana hot sauce goes great on pizza and fried chicken. Fucking love it. And I need to get my own. Sriracha sauce. I would bring the sriracha sauce I bought for the family over to the cabin, but I think people still use it, but not as much as I would. What? Maybe I'll bring my sriracha sauce over here. And Melody says, and Toiki too? Yes, I had Toiki yesterday. It was good. It's like there's like there's a piece of turkey left. There was like the backbone and the pelvic bone. Uh, that's what was left, but there was still meat on it. So I heated it up and just like stripped those bones bare. I stripped those bones clean, and that filled me up pretty good yesterday. There's still a little bit of turkey left for some sandwiches, but I'm good for now. Like I wanted to have some of that KFC. Because turkey is good and all, but when there's KFC in the room, yeah, I'll go for that. I should just go ahead and announce my like a run for the presidency and see what happens. It's like what's the worst that can happen? Just like make some YouTube videos announcing that I'm going to run for president, and then make other YouTube videos outlining my policies and what I want to do and my plans for the future. uh, just thinking about doing that just kind of like makes my shoulders and chest feel lighter because I doubt I'm the only one with this opinion. Melody says, I love extra hot sriracha. Yes, so do I. Oh, fucking love it. I'd like to get in some like political debates too and see how that goes. Because I've been in some like political debates here and there on Twitter. Oh man, I remember I was in this like debate with this Christian woman. I didn't know she was a Christian woman until she had like let me know toward the end. But it was all about abortion and whatever. And like she was opposed to abortion, of course. But then like we got in this heated debate and just stating like how women should have the right to abort, and it's like one of those uncomfortable subjects that no one likes to talk about. And like abortion isn't like an easy decision, you know, for some people to make, for a lot of people to make. It's really difficult because sometimes like people, um, like the way life is now and like how hard it is to like make a living, and then sometimes like some people are reckless, what they do in their privacy. Sometimes some ladies end up getting pregnant over some reckless decisions, but then when they weigh their um, life, like what it is, how difficult it is now compared to how difficult it could be, like it's not an easy choice, but sometimes like getting an abortion is like the more logical choice to make, because like not only are you making it for your own um, life's sake, if you if you do, like, you're making the decision for the potential life that woman is bearing, because if she does bear that life in like a time of hardship, then that's going to be all that much more difficult for that kid. And I hate to say it, because like I feel like it would hurt my the feelings of like my close friends and loved ones, but Melody says abortion is an easy subject for me. Yes, just abort it. Yeah, Melody and I aren't planning on having children, which is why, for that sake, I'm like, once we move in together, like, I'm fairly sure that I might go ahead and have that vasectomy, because I don't want kids. Not only because like bearing the label that I do now, but growing up, I spent my childhood raising children. Like, after my parents got divorced, I had to be there to help raise my younger sisters. So my childhood I spent raising children, and to hell if I want to spend my adult years doing more of the same. I mean, it sucks, but the one thing I was getting at, like, I hate to say it because it would hurt the feelings of my loved ones, but I wish I were aborted, because like fucking my life is shit right now, save for people like Melody and the family members that I have in my life. But if if I weren't born, like, things would be a whole lot easier. Not only for me because I wouldn't exist, but for my mom, because she would have been able to finish her schooling, got a better education, decent job, and her life probably wouldn't be as difficult as it is right now, because she's having to deal with all these medical costs and being wheelchair bound. It's really hard for her, being like disabled as she is. So life may have been easier for her if I weren't around. And if I weren't around, I wouldn't have to have dealt with all the bullshit that I'm dealing with now. But that's all just a far gone uh, conclusion or decision. We're way beyond that point. And I'm thankful for the people I have in my life right now, Melody being the top of that list. So sorry to say it, love, but you're stuck with me. I'm latched onto you like a lost puppy. And I have a responsibility to my family to just kind of stick around and just help out as much as I can, even though like just the legal system and the courts are just making it so difficult. But yeah, like fucking for the right to abort, like I'm all for that right, because sometimes people's lives are just so hard, and to make the decision to have or not have a child would totally be up to them. And when I was in this debate for that with that one woman, like, she was just all high and mighty with her religious values or whatever, and like just God this and that, and whatever, is like, fucking, that's all well and good, but you can't make laws based on religious arguments, because though we have the right of religious freedom, the right to religion, we have the right not to be ruled by it. So making like overbearing policies about abortion based on like religious belief is just forcing other people to adhere to to that religious mindset, and fucking that's not constitutional in the least. I mean, get the fuck out of here, man. I mean, people should have the right to abort if they feel it's necessary. And I don't know why I don't know why like the religious right wing are just so up in arms about controlling like a woman's reproductive rights. But then once the government comes in with all these like these pandemic mandates, they're all up in arms, just like saying like, "Oh, the government has no right to control my body," and it's stupid how that like that flipped on them. Like just fucking at first they're like, "Oh, like we need to make laws banning abortion. Like we want to control women's bodies," but then when the government comes in, it's like, "Well, we gotta we gotta control women's bodies, like because fetuses have the right to life, the right to live." And then when the government comes in, it's like, "Well, we like people have the right to not be infected by other people's um, potential to spread this virus, so we're going to put these mandates on people." And then all of a sudden, the religious right just like flips on that and is like, "Oh, the government doesn't have the right to control my body, blah blah blah, this and that." It's like, fucking get the hell out of here, stupid. Uh, but yeah, I was in this heated debate with this like freaking religious nut, and then I was just kind of just knocking down her arguments left and right. Like first off, both like mostly because it was based on her religious beliefs and whatever, and like it's like your religious beliefs are fine and everything. Like if you don't believe like in abortion, then you no one's forcing you to get an abortion, but that doesn't give you the right to like force other people not to have abortions because you're dictating other people's lives based on your moral perception or your religious mindset. And in this country, you don't have the right to dictate what other people do with their lives or their bodies. And I don't know, it was like just that same argument she kept bringing up, like how like it was wrong in like a religious sense, and I just kept shutting her down just because it just doesn't make any sense. And in the end, she started like crying and pleading with me, like saying like, "Oh, I'm a Christian mother of and a proud mother of like these three people, blah blah blah," and like, well, that's all good and everything for you. It's like it's nice that you're well off, but some of these people aren't as well off. Like they don't have the joy of like a good paying job or insurance or support from the community to help raise a child. So ultimately, they have to make that decision whether to or not to have an abortion. And if they decide to have one, that's on them. That's nobody else's business. And then that goes along with like another argument I was having with this guy on like on YouTube on like how he was like all about like abortion should be criminalized and blah 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 this and that, and there are people who are willing to adopt other like these wayward youths, like well, if they don't want that child, they should just give them up for adoption. And like, well, that's easy for you to argue, but have you adopted anybody? Are you one of those people who like adopts like a wayward child who just couldn't be supported by their family, who was given up for adoption? Have you adopted anybody? And he was like, no, but I do. Um, like he was arguing that he does uh, donate or what's the word? Volunteer, like at he was like volunteering at this overseas like orphanage or whatever, helping out the youth. And he's like, yeah, that's like all good and all, but no one has the same mindset as you do, and no one has the same opportunities that you do. And if you're not willing to adopt yourself, like take on the burden of adoption on your own, like what makes you think other people will do that just because you present that argument? I mean, you can't force other people to adopt like children who are given up for adoption, and you can't force people to like donate their time and effort and money to help all these youths that are orphans. in a sense, just like people can't support themselves just based on your good beliefs. And after we had like a little bit of a back and forth on that, like he just stopped arguing. Like he couldn't bring up anything else. It's like that's some of those arguments just freaking fall flat. Like people who are against abortion, just like saying like arguing like religious morals or ideals, or arguing like, oh well, there are people out there who want to adopt these babies, and like, well, you can't force people to adhere to your religious values, and you can't talk for people who these what's the word, I want to say allegory. No, that's not it. Oh god damn it, my vocabulary is is just nosedived because I don't talk as much as I do, or as I used to. um Hypothetical. You can't argue for these hypothetical people who want to adopt, because like if you're not willing to adopt like a child yourself, then you can't present that argument for like a good faith argument for hypothetical couples who want to adopt kids. And it's just like, look, like abortion is an uncomfortable subject and it's not an easy decision to make. So it's all up to the individual. I mean, like if it's not your DNA, then it's not your problem. If it's not your DNA, it's none of your business. If if a woman wants to abort, then she should have the right to. Same goes for like a couple, because like if a woman wants to abort like a fetus because like the man isn't in the picture, because let's face it, like people are sleeping around and just like um, dudes are impregnating women like left and right, and like if they're not there as like a legitimate father figure, they get no say so on whether or not a woman they impregnated should or shouldn't have an abortion. It's ultimately up to the woman. Melody's saying, Melody says, express my views on children on your Discord. Yes, Melody does not like children in the least. She thinks she takes them all as like just terrible, vicious monsters or something of that nature. But yeah, Melody doesn't want kids. Melody says, religion to me is just subliminal brainwashing. Yes, it's all kind of like a cultish type thing to me. Like having religious beliefs is all good and all, but then when you start dictating and mandating your religious beliefs should be followed by everyone and adhered to by the law, just like that's just fucking going too far out. I mean, keeping it in your household, that's fine. But like making other people trying to believe as you do through law or just by like protesting that your beliefs should be followed is just freaking madness. It, it's a fanatic like behavior. Alistair says basically, if you can't afford to raise a sprog, don't have them. Yes, yes, I wholeheartedly agree. Let me pull up the reference for this guy. And like another like a well, an argument against abortion, like for some reason, like all these guys, all these politicians and everyone like who's for like banning abortion are only focusing on the female aspect of it. But what if you kind of like flip the script, like, well, the issue at hand isn't that women, um, like the core issue isn't that women are like having abortions. It's the issue. The core issue is that women are having unwanted pregnancies. So how do you prevent an unwanted pregnancy? Mandate vasectomies. I mean, I think once you start like to end abortion, you'd have to mandate vasectomies. But then when you start pressing that, I'm pretty sure like the original religious right wing is gonna flip on that. It's like, oh, you can't control our bodies, blah blah blah, this and that. And I'm like, what? Because it's a man's body now that's like we're having trouble with? Because what causes? What's the 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 argue the issue behind abortions are unwanted pregnancies, and behind the unwanted pregnancies are just like, let's say, like loose men just like throwing their sperm here and there. So how do you solve that? Is just by mandating vasectomies. So why not argue that? But like, oh no, it's like if by mandated vasectomies, that's a step too far. It's like I'm all for banning abortion, but I'm not gonna ban unwanted pregnancies. That's that's monstrous. Well, like fucking shut up about it then. So, like, if you don't want mandated vasectomies, then stop being all up in arms about banning abortion. I mean, it's just fucking that simple. Like, if a woman wants to abort, then she should have the right to. But if you're gonna be all high and mighty and all up in arms about banning abortions, what we need to do is get to the root of the issue and stop these unwanted pregnancies. And the only way to do that is to mandate vasectomies. But I'm sure once you argue that, then these right wing nut jobs are just gonna fucking flip on the matter. It's like, whoa, like we want to control women's bodies, not men's bodies. We want to control and mandate a woman's reproductive rights, but don't mess with men's reproductive rights. That is a step too far. Melody says basically if you can't. Oh yeah, she already said that. Already, yeah. Oh yeah, I was going to pull up reference for this horn toad. I'm like on a freaking political rant today, just because it makes me feel better about my shitty predicament. Where is that reference sheet? There it is. So all in all, like I think on the subject of abortion, that should be a woman's decision, like a woman's right to do so. And if men aren't willing to put themselves under the knife to get the little snip or whatever it is, they should just shut the fuck up about it and just leave abortion rights alone. Just like let women have it because it'll be there when they need it. Because if you mandate it and make it illegal, women are going to just find ways to get abortion somehow, and they'll go about it in like go through like underground methods, like finding like a unlicensed doctor or something and get an abortion in a very unhealthy and unclean environment, and that would put risk to the the woman's health, and don't want to do that because you can't have you shouldn't force people to have like an unwanted pregnancy to like just go through it. I mean, it's just fucking stupid. What other thing can I? What other thing should I rant about today? I feel more like ranting than I do drawing, so I might as well use up my community service time to draw and rant. Because it relieves the stress. And Melody says, I enjoy the rants. Thank you, love. Oh, like, I just remembered something else I was thinking about during my break. It's like the religious right wing was just so up in arms about banning abortion or whatever, but then when it comes to sterilizing women at the border, they're all for it. And then, like, this is the party that's supposed to be all pro life and everything. But if it's immigrants they're sterilizing, they don't give a shit. I think they're just addicted to like just having something to be pissed off about. And if they find something that they can manipulate as a way to like see as being opposed to their religious beliefs, then they'll just fucking piss and moan about it. I don't mind religion, just don't force other people to believe as you do. Like as for me, like I have my own religious beliefs in my faith and culture. Like I'll still go to meetings and have peyote ceremonies and do the smudging, but I'm not out there like protesting that everybody should smudge their house or apartment, or everyone should adhere to my cultural religious beliefs and values. Um, Everyone should tear down their churches and use teepees instead for their religious get-togethers because uh, religious churches are an affront to the Holy Creator and everything. And building a house of God is just a building a cage for him, whereas you should just have it done in a teepee or like out in the open, blah blah blah, this and that. You see, like Navajos don't force their beliefs onto other people, so religious beliefs are fine. Just what I'm against are just like all these other religious fanatics just trying to force everyone to believe as they do, and it's mostly the Christians. And the moment you like start like opposing Christian thoughts and beliefs in legal mandates, they start screaming, "Oh, you're oppressing me! You're this is religious persecution." It's like, no, shut up, you fucking idiot. We're just telling you not to persecute other people. You can believe as you want to believe. Just stop persecuting other people based on your belief. We just want you we just want to get you to stop forcing your moral opinion and your religious mindset onto other people. You're not being persecuted. Fucking religious nut jobs. And it's mostly the Christians, the the people of like Christian faith who like want to force other people to like believe as they do. Because you don't see like um, Navajo church missionaries going about dictating like smudging and burning cedar and everything. Like no, no. Have you accepted the Navajo church as your one sole faith and belief? I'm just going door to door. Would you like a smudging of your house and a song and a prayer? Yeah. No, you don't see us doing that. But it's mostly like the Christian faith religions. They're all about that. Knocking on your doors, trying to get you to believe as they do. They get into the minds and pockets of like politicians, trying to mandate their belief through law. Melody says it already ate up half hour. my rant's already ate up half an hour. Religious, a murky mire of toxic sludge to walk through. Yes, yes. But I'm not knocking any like a religious faith or religion. Like those values and beliefs are good to have and practice, like in your own home and your own church. But when you try to force other people to believe and pray as you do, and try to like dictate that through, mandate that through law, that's just going too far. So yeah, like keep your faith, keep your religion. It's all well and good. If it makes you a better person, that's great. But don't force other people to believe as you do, especially some of these churches that spit all this hate and vitriol if you don't adhere to their religious mindset. It's just, oh, God, it's just annoying. I'm pretty sure that's not what God intended. I don't quite like this character's expression. I think it could be a little more, maybe cartoony, but I'll fix that during production. Right now, this is like pre-production phase, storyboarding. After this comes layout, where I make the backgrounds and characters more detailed, prepping it for animation, and then we'll get to the animation phase. Melody says, I always told myself that religion is for those who are not mentally strong enough to cope on their own. Yeah, very, very true, isn't it? She also says, I hate and vitriol. Oh, hello there, Westboro Baptist frauds. Oh man, those assholes. with all their signs saying like God hates fags and this and that. It's like fucking hell. Who who would ever want to be part of that message? You know, it's just like people who enjoy the feeling of trying to control all those around them. Like very sadistic mindset who joins something like that. Very maniacal monarchy. Kind of like I've like seen snippets of some of those like documentaries where it's just like harshly controlled by like religious patriarchs who enjoy dictating how their family lives their lives and just enjoys spitting all this hate and vitriol toward other people who aren't part of their faith, and just it's just like an excuse to be hateful toward people who don't really matter to them. I mean, like if people want to love the way they want to love and do what they want to do in their life, and as long as it doesn't hurt other people, like people ought to be enjoy freedom and liberty just as long as it doesn't encroach on the freedom of liberties of other people. For some reason, like nuts like the Westboro Baptist Church, it's like they enjoy. It's like they get off having like this iron fist control over their family and their beliefs, and just trying to force other people to believe as they do. I mean, it's just a religion based off hate. And that's it. Melody says usually people trying to escape it, they try to picket Jeff Henneman's funeral, but they wouldn't actually dare get close to a mob of grieving metalheads. Nice. The storyboards don't have to be that detailed, but I think I'd like them to be a little more detailed in preparation for layout. That, and I can just kind of like mull around one of these panels for a while and just eat up time until I can get back to commissions and start making some real money again. Do, 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 do. How many people are listening to this crazy rants of mine? No, not that many. No. This coffee's good and all, but I think I'm in the mood for a soda. Simply because today's been a pretty bitter day. Oh, and I got court this Friday or Thursday. I can't remember which. Court update. Not much to update because fucking people around here won't hire me for shit. And I'm still waiting on FAFSA for my schooling, student loan or student grant. They gave me an estimate of how much I could receive per semester, but then they said they'd get back to me once the whole process is done, and I've still yet to hear back from them. So until I can get that confirmation, my schooling is up in the air. So I may as well take time out of my day, my busy day, to try to teach myself programming and think of what I can program to like make myself some side cash until I can actually get like maybe a programming gig somewhere. Because studios aren't hiring me, local employment isn't hiring me. The only money I'm making is like on commission, but then fucking the courts don't see that as a legitimate job. And they're wasting my time with all this other stuff that they want me to do. So it's taking time out of my pocket. It's taking money out of my pocket and like freaking making my family suffer because I was one of the only other people bringing money into the household. But now, like, I'm only making enough money to make my own personal ends meet. Thanks a lot, government. Fuck the judicial system. Putting me through all this bullshit, yet letting hands on rapists and molesters get off with a slap on the wrist. Goddamn assholes. And yet here some of the politicians and governors and people working in people working in government are guilty of raping and molesting themselves, just fucking how about this Matt Gaetz? Guilty of well, he hasn't been found guilty yet, but friggin' in trouble for human trafficking, having sex with minors and shit. Here I am, haven't done anything close to that, and I'm having to put up with all this fucking bullshit. And that's why I'm running for president, so I can change the laws, make them more fair, root out all these un-American shitheads who've enacted and enforced all these freaking overbearing, draconian, un-American laws. Round them all up, try them, and then execute them. Fucking shitheads. Because that's how you clean a swamp. God damn it. I'll fucking sterilize that shit. Because I can't be bought. I can't be corrupted. Because all I want is true liberty, real freedom, and real justice for all. That goes for people on both sides of the fence. Enough of this, like, fucking politicians and federal authorities and judges getting caught for crimes, but then getting let off with a slap on the wrist. No, Melody, don't feel bad. If anything, you should feel great because you're like the only one who's really carrying me as far as you have. Like, as far as I've come, like, you're the friggin' only person that has supported me this much for this long. I know you're doing your best, and I applaud you for it. You're like the freaking most awesome person in my life right now. Because in many cases, you're the only person who's like putting forth like all this effort to in keep me doing commissions and such. Everyone else who wants to commission me is just waiting for me to get off probation. They can't spare the time or the money to just like toss me a few bucks here and there. Well, some of them do, but you're the only one that's been keeping me afloat for this long, and you're awesome for it. And once we meet, I'm going to give you a big pat on the back and a big old hug, and then just freaking never let you go. Because you're my shining star, Mel. But what was I ranting about just now? I'm saying, don't worry, they aren't Lolitas. Um, Melody said, I'm gonna be sending some dough, some floof as a down payment for two combs in future if you likes. And she says, don't worry, they aren't Lolitas. And Melody's talking about Lolitas in the fashion in the gothic fashion sense, where um, she wants me to draw these characters in like these really fancy frilly dresses because I'm pretty good at drawing like frilly stuff. But lately, I've just been doing a lot of it, and it's really time consuming. Even though like I do use some brushes from Clip Studio Paint, it's still time consuming. So I'm a little burnt out on frilly things right now. Frilly, lacy, and whatever things. But what was I talking about? I was talking about corrupt officials, government authority. Talking about how I'm tired of. Oh yeah, I'm tired of like all these like judges, police authorities, government elected government officials getting caught for these crimes and then be given like a slap on the wrist. And like it's all in the sake of like it's all in the vein of like, oh, they had so many years of service. It's like fucking that's bullshit, man. I mean, like if you're elected to like a position of authority in government, or if you're like a policing authority, you should be held up to the same standard, if not more so, than an average citizen. So having such a high position and then being caught for a crime, you should have that much farther to fall. Like you shouldn't be getting a slap on the wrist. You should be getting like the freaking book thrown at you. I mean, like fucking max sentence, if not more so, because of the authority that you held and abused, and just fucking just not having the ability to maintain like a position like that. And depending on the level of egregious nature that the violation was done in, like with my laws in place, I'd be grounds enough for like a fucking execution. You know, like fucking try them, sentence them, and fucking time for the guillotine. You know, because like that, like just letting them off with a slap on the wrist just breeds more corruption. Like you let someone off with a slap on the wrist who abused their authority and power, and then that like kind of gives leeway for the next guys. Like, oh hey, this guy was caught for this crime, but he only got like a very minimal sentence, if any. So I'm just going to go ahead and do what that guy was doing and be corrupt in my own nature and endeavors. And if I get caught, so be it. I'm just going to get let off with a slap on the wrist and just enjoy the rest of my life with my ill-gotten gains. Like motherfucker, no. If I was in power, like fucking, you fall from a pretty high place, you know, just everything taken from you, all your ill-gotten gains, and all of your associates rooted out, rounded up, and depending on their position of authority, like if they're an average citizen, you know, like just give them a, like if their accomplices were just average citizens, like give them a hefty sentence, but enough to like, you know, don't fucking do this shit anymore. But then for that high official being guilty of like whatever crime it is, like if it's egregious enough, just fucking sentence them and execute them. Like just getting them, letting them off with a slap on the wrist, that just breeds more of the same. Melody says, "Hope you don't mind doodling guitars, though." Yeah, I can doodle guitars. Melody says, "It's what we call cronyism here in the UK." Yeah, that guilty official, like fucking root out all of his cronies, fucking give them a boot, and depending on their involvement, if they're government officials, have them tried and executed. Yeah. But you know, like I only want to save executions for the government officials and policing authorities. Like no average citizen should suffer that unless they're like heinous serial murderers or something, serial killers. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd consider that worthy of execution via guillotine. I'm gonna bring back the guillotine. I should probably like drop designs for like a modified modern guillotine. It's like I want to design a contraption that can um, execute, let's say, 6 or 9 people at once, because there's a lot of corruption in government and politics. Make we can be sure of that, and all that corruption trickles down to all the policing authorities. So there's going to be a lot of executions. So like I want to design a contraption that can execute 9 people at once, like this huge like mechanical guillotine where you can strap down like 9 people at a time. We'll just say like 9 people at a time. Strap them down and design it to where they'd be on a slant, kind of like facing straight down. So like once the guillotine lops off their head, they can just go ahead and bleed out, and then build a device that they're kind of like that they're laying in that will kind of like shrink wrap their bodies so they can be easily their bodies can be easily transported to places where they can be um, dissected for organ harvest and body part transplants. But yeah, build this or design this device where it's like easy and efficient. And I'll call it Lady Justice's backswing. That's what I'll call it, because Lady Justice has a double-edged sword. But the way the law is right now, like one of those edges has been just chipped and dulled, just like hacking away at average citizens. Whereas like the elected politicians, judges, and whatever, when they get caught for crimes, like I said, they get let off with like a slap on the wrist. So the reason I'm calling it like Lady Justice's backswing is that it's going to be lopping off the heads of all the corrupt authority in power when they're found guilty of un-American conduct and rightly and justly executed. But that's going to be my America in the future. Melody says, I prefer to do it the other way. Why have them facing downward on the guillotine? Have them facing upward so they can stare in terror in the blade dangling above them. Well, because I don't want them to suffer that bad, even though, like, it's going to be like, even though I admit, like, guillotine is going to be visually gruesome. Once these parties are tried and convicted of their un-American crimes and all that, like I still want to treat them with some sort of, I guess, uncruelty. So I have thought about that, just like having them facing up, looking at the blade as it comes down. But I think that'd just be too cruel. Like, if anything, kind of like make it more akin to. You remember that the death scene in Soylent Green, where the old person is in this room with all these projectors and they're projecting things like nature and everything as they're given like this injection that just makes them die and so they can process them for food. Maybe have something of that same nature, like having them facing downward and at a slant so when the guillotine lops off their head, like they bleed out. But as they're facing down, maybe just have like them in maybe like some sort of like VR headset or projection in front of them, which kind of like shows the same thing, like showing images of like nature and something soothing, just something to like just kind of keep them relaxed and maybe give them a little bit of a sedative because they've suffered enough through the process of being tried and executed for like their egregious un-American like um, enact enactment of a lot of these overbearing laws and the action of like enforcing them. Like they've gone through enough of just like suffering the prosecution of all those actions. So in the end, like just make it as comfortable as possible before lopping their head off is what I'm thinking. Melody says, my vision of the guillotine is to build a giant blender for them with a slowly retracting platform disappearing from under them. I thought of that too. Believe me, I thought of that too. Where we're like they're just fed into like a giant blender that just grinds them into like freaking mush, and then the mush is just incinerated, and those ashes are redistributed in like cement and mortar where they can lay the foundation for this new America. But again, like I feel like that would be too cruel, and that's why I'm opting for the guillotine, like a updated guillotine option, to where it can be like as relaxing as possible. That, and so that the bodies can stay intact and unharmed for organ um, and body part um, donations and transplant, because waste not, want not, right? Like there are people with medical conditions who are on long lists just waiting for like vital organ transplants. So that's why I want to make the guillotine process as painless as possible, because I don't want to cause undue stress toward the organs that'll be used for life-saving transplants. See, that's how I'm thinking about it. It's just like being like really strict against government authority, being really strict against corrupt government authority, but at the same time giving back to the people, you know, so like everyone can benefit. Melody says, have the mush used as fertilizer. Okay, well, after all the organs and whatever is utilized in like organ and body part transplants, if there's anything left over, then that stuff will be incinerated and either maybe yeah, like turned into fertilizer, or either we can or like redistributed as cement or mortar, just mixed in with that, so we can just utilize the last of the remains to rebuild a better America. Yeah, yeah. Melody says the reason for the cruelty is a deterrent for others. No, well, I think the fact that they're being guillotined is deterrent enough. I mean, like you take all these corrupt politicians who make all these like flippant decisions on like everyone's freedoms and rights just based on like what corporation they're working for. I mean, if they're accepting money and bribes from like the pharmaceutical companies or the military or the prison prison industry, like just fucking try them for all their bullshittery and then just have them executed. And if anything, like maybe make those executions public on a certain channel, like a well, that wouldn't be free to the public. Like let's say like you'd make it sort of free to the public, but then just have them executed. I think that would be deterrent enough to just stop all these backwards talking politicians from accepting bribes and making decisions, reckless decisions for money at the cost of human lives. I think that would be I think that would be deterrent enough. There's no need to be all gory, even though I have thought about it, like with the whole upwards facing in the guillotine or the whole like blender idea. Like, yeah, I've thought of that about that before, but in the end, it's just too cruel. I mean, like they got caught for their shit and they're paying for it. There's no need to just add that extra dig into the side of their ribs once they're it's all going to be said and done. Lodi says that's what we call lobbying. Private companies having secret whispers in politicians' ears to benefit the companies, and let's just say those that have stocks and shares in said companies. Yeah, I want to do away with all that bullshittery, because There's just too many lives at at risk. And oh man, while I was on my break, I came across this video. It was a YouTube video going it was a brief document of this boy's rise to fame. Like he became like a meme, but he was also suffering like this debilitating disease where his intestines weren't absorbing any nutrients for his body, and he died at the age of 6. And the family was trying so desperately to like kind of just keep him alive, and they even had a crowdfunding campaign to just help with the medical costs. And I'm over here thinking, like, as I was fresh off my rant from the previous video earlier this morning, is like, why why do people have to pay tooth and nail, an arm and a leg for life-saving medical costs? I mean, this boy was only 6 years old, and yet the family couldn't. The family was asking for donations to help keep him alive. I, it didn't say how he passed away, but I can only think that maybe the family just couldn't afford his treatment anymore, and the boy just finally succumbed to his illness. And if that's the case, it's just like a situation that's just so rampant here in the US where people avoid treatment simply because they can't afford it. And that sucks. And I feel the same way too, because there are things, there are issues I've had with my body and my joints that I want to get checked out, but I don't have the money to. And even now, I don't have the money to pay for my current medical bills when I injured my foot. And why are things the way they are like that? Because these medical corporations are making it so that they can capitalize on human lives, and the way that they can do that is so government can is the way they do that is so like government can stay out of their business and keep insurance rates as they are and medical costs as they are, and like pharmaceuticals just at this like flippant high rate. And that's just fucking bullshit. I mean, if anything, like I would like the government to have more control and mandate over healthcare and medicine, because the way things are the way they are now is like all these medical companies are keeping a lot of these medicines at such a high rate. So they reap all the benefits off the backs of these people who are just struggling to survive, and then some of them are just struggling to live. And if some of them die off, these medical companies don't care. That's just there's more people lined up wanting to pay for life-saving care and medicine. And once their banks are dried up, like these medical companies and pharmaceutical companies are just like, fuck it, let them die. There's always another sick son of a bitch out there who is willing to give all their money just for another day of life. And that's just fucking bullshit, because some of these pharmaceutical companies make some life-saving medicine for just pennies at the most, and then they go ahead and like mark up the value, of the actual cost that it took to make, and they put like a $100 or $200 stamp on a pill and put it out there in the market, and just like reap all the benefits and buy themselves yachts and airliners and big houses and cars, all on the backs of the sick, suffering, and dying. And they take some of those ill-gotten gains and put it in the pockets of politicians to just keep looking the other way. He's like, don't mind us because we're going to give you money. Here's your money. And let's not have socialized healthcare because if we had socialized healthcare, me as a doctor or a pharmaceutical specialist can keep squeezing blood out of all these turnips to afford my preferred lifestyle of fast cars, big houses, and bigger boats. Because fuck the American people, as long as they're willing to pay for the medicine that I provide at such a high rate, I'm going to keep doing it. And in order to keep that, I'm just going to keep paying these politicians to look the other way and keep playing down socialized healthcare and everything so I can continue affording my rich lifestyle that I don't deserve and that I don't earn. Yeah, fuck those assholes. So, with me in power, I'd root out all the lobbyist politicians, have them tried for all their bullshit that they put us all through, fucking execute them. Oh, I did that like not as a friggin' gun, but like as the guillotine slicing off their head. Yeah, as an American president, that's what I would want to do, and I would strive to get it done because there are too many American lives lost simply because they can't afford the health care and medicine that they so sorely need, all for the sake of we'll call it the medical industrial complex's greed. Just that. Okay. Melody says a parasite's preying on human misery. Yes, that's what they are. Yeah, the idea of free healthcare like here in the UK and Canada must make the US Medical Association absolutely cringe. Yeah, it does. So they launch all these false claims against socialized healthcare, like saying like, oh, it's going to cost the American taxpayer X amount of money. It's going to raise the taxes of all the Americans. It was like, no, it's like a lot of these proposals are being made to like have like these a lot of these companies and like rich people pay more taxes in order to afford health care for the benefit of all American society. But they push the false narrative, like saying like, no, the government's going to raise like lower income and middle income families' taxes in order to pay for this health care. And like, no, that's not it. And it's like we just want to tax the rich to help pay for a lot of this stuff. But the rich don't want to be taxed because we want our gold plated yachts, we want our giant mansions, and we want our fancy airplanes because we earned it off of the back of all these sick and dying people that we scammed. It's our right. I'm like, no, it's not, you fucking piece of shit. Melody says, isn't that what Obamacare was about? To give free healthcare to underprivileged? We want we want our spaceships to look like dicks. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know where Obamacare like went, but there's something must have gotten manipulated along the way because after I came out and heard that, well, if you don't get your own health care, you're going to have to pay that more in like when tax season comes around. It's like, what sense does that make? It's like, I can't afford health care. Why would I claim that I don't have health care to risk getting taxed more. So I don't know, like, what all went down with that. Like, the issue that we have now is that we have, like, first off, we had like Republicans giving the rich tax breaks because it was just like corrupt money giving to corrupt politicians. And then now we have like corporate Democrats not undoing some of the reckless policies that the Republicans did, all for the sake of like, okay, this is all speculation on my part, but when Biden got in there, I was hoping he would undo a lot of the tariffs that freaking dumbass Trump put into place, because all the tariffs did is like up the prices of a lot of the things that Americans manufacture. Because putting all these tariffs in place, like American manufacturers were able, before the tariffs were put in place, American manufacturers were able to get cheap products for their manufactured goods from from a lot of it was coming from China. So they get their cheap like steel, metal, synthetics from overseas to manufacture their products here. But now that all those tariffs were put into place, a lot of the cheap outlets that we had before we can't get. So a lot of these companies are having to go somewhere else to get a lot of the supplies that they need to manufacture their goods, but all the prices elsewhere are more expensive. So in that sense, like, all these companies are having to raise their prices because they can't get the cheap raw goods we were getting before. So all the cost in like making these products is like affecting the cost of the products on the shelves. So when Biden got in there, I was hoping he was going to undo those tariffs so a lot of these manufacturers can get the cheap raw products that they were getting before, so to just lower these costs. But he hasn't done it yet. And I was racking my brain earlier, like thinking, like, why keep this going? Well, like, why keep those tariffs in place and keep costs up? And then it hit me. It's like, well, it's because he's a corporate Democrat, and if he's working for corporations, of course the corporations don't want the tariffs to be lifted because they can use the tariffs and inflation that results to um, artificially hike their prices and blame it on inflation, and the American people can be none the wiser. So I think the corporations want the tariffs to remain in place so they can justify the artificial price hikes. And I don't know, it's still speculation on my part, but it just makes too much sense to not be true. Fucking crooked Republicans and corporate Democrats. Once I'm president, I'm going to break them all down, make them pay for the unwarranted and undue suffering of all the American people, because they brought all this upon us just for the sake of their petty greed. Motherfuckers. You see, I'm too full of hate and vitriol for the political system as it is that it's impossible for me to become corrupt or bought off because I hate them so much. But yeah, Melody's like saying Biden's a centrist. Yes, um, I think he'd want people to believe so, but I'm pretty sure he's a corporate Democrat. It's like he does all these speeches, which sounds like he's more left leaning. But I think, yeah, well, yeah, I think he's more centrist than he is left leaning. Like he gave all these speeches and like promising all this and that, but he hasn't pulled through. And some of the stuff he has done, like he's done like half measures toward it. Like it's not the full package of what he promised, but like just a baby step toward the goals that he spouted about. And I think that's all in the vein of just keeping his corporate cronies happy, because I do believe he is more of a corporate Democrat than an actual politician. Again, like another politician in the pocket of corporations. But yeah, that's what I theorize as to why he hasn't lifted those dumbass tariffs the previous guy put in. Because yeah, those tariffs made everything more expensive. Because Trump didn't know what he was doing. He thought he was like making things more expensive for the Chinese. It was like, no, that's not the case, you fucking idiot. Put tariffs on them, like American manufacturers can't get the cheap raw supplies that they were getting before, so they have to go elsewhere. And elsewhere it's more expensive, so now they have to hike up their prices because of the hiked up prices of manufacturing. And now corporations, I think they want to keep those tariffs in place so they can artificially inflate costs of manufacturing. And that's why like things keep getting more expensive nowadays. But yeah, Melody says, vengeance! Yes! I can't be bought off. I can't be intimidated. I can't be corrupted because all I want is vengeance. Not only for myself, but the American people, because there's just a lot of bullshittery going around. It's got to end. I'd be the one to end it. I talk about it enough and get me in there, and I'll just fucking pull through and deliver what I promise. Change the laws, round up all the corrupt politicians and policing authorities, lop off their heads, donate their body parts and organs to people who need them, get money out of politics, end cronyism, put capitalism back in the hands of the people where it rightly belongs and out of the clutches of these greedy corporations. Get me in there and I'll get it done. How many teeth did I give him? Okay. I'm guessing I should have his mouth wide open. Ah. Melody says, nearly there, dude. 30 minutes to go. And I've just been ranting a lot of the time. I should just rant all more often. Like, may as well, you know. Like I said, I'm not getting paid for this stuff. As long as I'm getting work done, I may as well just rant about what I want to rant. Not like I'm getting paid on commission or by the hour. So fuck it. Like these times here are just going to be reserved for me. Like yeah, I'll be working. I'm working right now, but using up some of that time for just speaking my mind. Lord knows I don't get to do it in court because to do so would just be seen as a aversion toward treatment, and then they'll see that as a justification to give me more treatment. Even though if I say like, oh, I'm depressed, and like, oh, well, that's what treatment is for. It's like, yeah, but treatment is part of the cause. Oh, we'll just give you more treatment. Stupid flippant decisions. This is why it's just one of the main reasons I'm just so pissed off about everything right now. So I think I have a right to be pissed off. I mean, freaking legitimate hands-on rapists and molesters getting off with just minimal sentences and probation, whereas I'm sitting here on lifetime probation simply because a pre-sentence investigator was prejudiced against me. Fucking did shit all she was supposed to do to just interview people about my character and conduct. She interviewed the wrong person, and when she couldn't get a hold of my sister, she just gave up. Stupid feral investigator, pre-sentence investigator bitch. Yeah, I fucking hate her. It'd be a highlight of my day if I heard that she died of COVID. But if I were president and I enacted all the policies and laws that I want to enact, yeah, she'd definitely be one of those people on the chopping block. But I'd save her for dead last though, just so she could see all the well the result of her prejudiced decisions and ideals. Because if she was good at her job, she wouldn't have judged me so harshly. But she hardly did her job and just fucking based me or judged me based on her own prejudicial thoughts and preconceived notions of me and my nature. Because I wasn't this hateful or this spiteful beforehand, but having to go through all this bullshit because of her flippant decisions or flippant um, decision not to actually do her job, do a thorough enough version, or do a thorough enough uh, process of her job. just made my life more difficult than it ought to have been. I'd love to see her on the chopping block. But yeah, just save her for dead last. So, so she could see the fruits of her. Oh, what was the term? Oh, God, I got to get back into exercising my vocabulary. My vocabulary is shit nowadays. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess just reap what she sowed. Melody says that'd be amazing. I gotta take a bathroom break. So I shall BRB. I'm back. Took me a little while because I saw this leftover potato salad and figured I'd go ahead and have some. I hope it's still good. It's potato salad that was from Thanksgiving, but it's been out all morning because there's like no room for it in the fridge. Still tastes all right. Melody says 15 minutes. Sweet. Mm. Mm. Got a bit of a head rush. Oh, alrighty. Oh, we got the wrong brush. There we go. I was just thinking, like, yeah, it might be shocking of like me sitting here and just like talking about, oh, one day when I become president, I'd like to change the laws and then have all the corrupt politicians and government officials executed. It's like, oh, that's so shocking. Like, how could you say something like that? It's like, well, fucking why not? Because, like, when you think about it, all these corrupt politicians and corporations making money off of people. And the example I was talking about earlier is like all these. medical companies living off of the backs of people who are just trying to survive and live another day. Is like, if someone on medical treatment who's paying out the nose in order to have life-saving medicine or treatment can't survive anymore because they can't afford it, and if those people die, is like no one gives a shit. Like everyone's just so blasé about it. It's like, well, it is what it is, you know. Like they couldn't afford the treatment, so I guess they just had to die. But the only reason that it is the way things are is because all these corrupt companies just make it so hard to afford all this life-saving treatment, and corrupt politicians just allow them to do that. So why is it okay for a regular individual who needs medical care, why is it okay for them to die when they can't afford it, when all these corrupt companies and politicians allow that to happen? You know, it's like they're earning money off of this dying individual, and then when that person does die, it's like, oh well. But then when someone like me comes forth, is like saying like, well, that corruption shouldn't be, that shouldn't exist. So why not execute the people responsible for it, especially the politicians who allow that to happen? It's like, oh well, that's a step too far. You know, look, I'm not talking about going out and like threatening people with their lives or whatever. I'm talking about me getting to a position of power, changing the laws to where it works for the average American, and just kind of like flipping the script. That's it. It's like all the lives that have been lost due to people just simply unable to afford treatment, that's on the hands of the corrupt industries and those corrupt politicians who take money to just look the other way. Those lost lives are on their hands. And you know, like once I bring that to light and expose the corruption for what it is, and then just kind of like show the examples of like all these people who have died because of that, and it's like, fucking, why not try them for their unjust greed and execute them? I mean, it only makes sense. And then I'll get those people who's like, whoa, Johnston Blackhorse, isn't that like an eye for an eye? Like, an eye for an eye will make the whole world go blind. It's like, well, fucking thinking of it in that vein, how many eyes have these corrupt politicians and companies gouged out? And how many eyes are we going to allow them to gouge out before we start digging into one of theirs? I mean, when you look at it, the whole grand scheme of things, like these people, for the sake of their greed, are responsible for X amount of deaths in this country. And the way I see it, it's like their lives and their liberty are for forfeit once all of that is exposed. So get me into that position of power where I can reshape the laws and expose all this corruption and these un-American um, actions that have been like been taken part in by like all these corrupt politicians and corporations, and fucking let me do something about it. Because it's not wrong to ask for justice, and for all these greedy people to make their living off the backs and lives of the sick and the dying. That's not right. And for all those people who did die simply because they couldn't afford life saving treatment, that shouldn't be as expensive as it is now. The people responsible should be held to account. And I'm not going about this in some sort of staccato terrorism way. It's like, I'm not saying like, oh, it would be nice if someone else were to do this. Like, no. It's like, I'll do it. Just put me into that position of power so I can make these laws just and undo all this corruption. And for all those corrupt people who allowed all these people to die for the sake of their greed, just fucking execute them. Try them, then execute them. I'm not saying anyone should go out and harm these people. Just let them suffer under the new laws and regulations that I'll put into place. That'll be my burden to bear. But first things first, I have to become president. Because no one else is gonna, let's face it, no one else is gonna do half of the things that I've been ranting about. I'd be willing to do it because my life is shit right now. Except for the special people in my life, like Melody and my family. Other than that, my life is shit. So I'd be totally willing to be the one to enforce or enact these policies that I'm talking about and enforce them. Because shit all if anyone else is going to do it. Because we just have another Biden in place who talks a big game and promises all these like life changing like things to taking place, but then he just beats around the bush and pussyfoots around it, and then lets the freaking Republicans talk him down from a lot of these things that would have benefited a lot of us. But fucking shit. What can you expect from a career politician? They're just in it to play the game, and part of the game is playing with human lives. I'm not going to do that. The only lives that matter are the lives of the citizens, lives of like the politicians and policing authorities. As long as you do your job and do it correctly, without corruption, without greed, without prejudice, you'd be okay. But if you're found guilty of any of that, your freedom and lives are up for forfeit. That's the way I see it. But in order to have that done, you've got to change these laws. And I'm the only one who's willing to fight for that. Because I've been in this shit for too long. To the point that it's like pretty much all I ever think about now. I can't be corrupted. I can't be intimidated. I can't be bought off. Just get me in there and I'll get it done. Melody says it's time. That's it. Community service is done for the day. If you liked what you saw, please follow me or subscribe. If you want to donate to more creation, the creation of more videos such as this, and donate to this specific project, there's a donation button in the section below. It'll take you to my Coffee page, and there you can donate any dollar amount you like. If you do, that'd be awesome. If you don't, I guess I just continue going about it the way I have. And fuck you. Just kidding, just kidding. It's a fuck you to all the people who said that they would donate but haven't done so thus far. So, yeah, fuck those guys. As for the lurkers who have just been lurking, like you guys are cool with me. But as for those who said that they would donate, like fuck you and your false hope, you son of a bitch. Anyway, so hateful and spiteful today, Black Horse. I love it. uh, but yeah, donate if you'd like to. Donate if you can. If you don't, that's cool. And if you can't, just don't fucking say anything. Just keep lurking, and you'll be all right. The worst thing to give me is false hope because I hate false hope. If you give me false hope and say that you'll donate, but don't pull through, you're a fucking piece of shit. Yeah, assholes. Anyway, yeah. So, twerkers, jerkers, and lurkers, keep at it. And false hope motherfuckers, just fucking stay the fuck away. So, this has been Johnson Blackhorse. Melody says, "You got me, nerd." Yes, I know. I love you, Melody. I love you to no fucking end. I'm so grateful to have you in my life. But yeah, this has been Johnson Blackhorse, the one and only. And until next time, I shall check you all later. Sweet. Bye.